The truth is out there, and it begins with you. Welcome to the Cosmic Fold, where we talk high strangeness. Call us at 928-288-2942. That's 928-288-2942. Or join us by video. If you're at a computer, just look for the link in the chat. Buckle up, sit around our virtual campfire, and let's get started.
Hello, gang. We got the crew here tonight. How's everyone doing?
¿Cómo está? ¿Qué tal?
So how's everyone doing tonight?
Pretty good. Enjoying the weather out here. How about you guys?
Oh, it's amazing weather, isn't it?
Well,
I'm going up to... Go ahead.
I say we've been in somewhat of a cold snap in the last week. Oh, yesterday I woke up. It was with the wind chill. It was 11 degrees.
Ooh.
But we're heading into the 70s next week. That's Atlanta. You know, you want to see things in the weather. Wait a day.
I'm going to go up to Winslow tomorrow and see some friends. Get that. So I got my GR Kazoo Racing shirt on. I'm about to go driving. That's a fun drive, a couple hours. See some friends, have some brunch, take a break from the computer all day long. Any more UFO sightings out there, Jose?
No, I've kept my eyes open, but no, nothing yet.
No, nothing.
Anyone else see anything? Nothing there?
No, I've been looking on my app here, and there was a sighting. Last sighting around here was December 23rd. It was a small white disc moving quickly. But
yeah, you said that app. That's it's only on iPhone. I use Android, so not available to us yet. But it's kind of a cool thing.
It's called Enigma. It's a really great app. It's just everyone. It's like a community of people who post pictures and stories of things they've seen worldwide, and I don't know if you can see that.
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay.
Yep.
Yeah, and that's how many sightings. And say if I tap on that, it drills down even more, and then I go right by my place, and there's 3. Here's one from January 20th, which is a month ago. Flashing light hovering in the sky, a description of it, and then 50 metallic spheres hovering and moving upward. This is a really cool app. It sucks that it's not available if you're not on an iPhone, but man, it's just a fantastic app.
Well, I signed up. They've got a mailing list thing.
Yeah.
So, and I'm going to be taking this podcast, moving it also to some audio. So let me introduce everybody. I'm Deborah, producer and host. Al Stefanelli. He and I have done some gigs in the past.
Some hundreds.
Laura, a friend of many years, who's helped me with sound and everything. And then we have Jose from this neck of the woods, who had just an incredible sighting the end of January. So those who are just not seeing this, that's who we have. Now, what I am going to do, the theme tonight is historical sightings, right? So these videos aren't the best in the world because they take forever to do. But they are entertaining. So this one comes from 1889. So I'm gonna put this
on an article published in the St. Louis Globe-Democrat on Saturday, January 19, 1889.
Tonight we bring you a chilling account straight from the pages of history. A tale of mysterious lights, ghostly apparitions, and an enigma that has never been solved. Our story takes us to the small town of Maple, Ohio, on the cold winter night of January 4th, 1889. William Doherty, a young man returning home from church, had just escorted Miss Lydia Trissler safely to her house. But as he set off into the night, he had no idea that he was about to become part of a mystery that would haunt the town for years to come.
What in the world is that?
Just a quarter of a mile ahead, he spotted a strange light floating off the road to his left. As he approached, the light moved. When he stopped, it stopped. It was as if it was watching him. Determined to uncover the source of the phenomenon, Doherty rode toward the light, but before he could reach it, it vanished. Not one to be easily scared, he returned the next night at the same hour, and sure enough, the light appeared once more, but this time he was ready. He jumped from his horse, tied it, and ran to the spot, only to find nothing. He ran to the nearest farmhouse, seeking answers.
You've seen them too, haven't you? Those lights, they've been following people.
Doherty wasn't alone. More and more townspeople reported seeing the same lights floating near the barnyard of John Crawford. They weren't just lights, they were figures, human-like, glowing, watching. Some saw two distinct figures, one brighter than the other. They stood motionless, their forms clear against the darkness. But the moment anyone approached, they vanished. Some believed they were spirits, others thought they were omens. Doherty himself admitted that he had seen such lights before, always when traveling alone at night. But no one, no scientist, no preacher, no townsfolk could ever explain what they were.
There are signs and wonders in this world we may never understand. Some see them as messages, others as warnings. But I tell you this, when I was in Washington City, I saw the same lights that the great Reverend Henry Bascom once spoke of. Were they angels or something else? I cannot say.
The phenomenon wasn't just limited to Maple, Ohio. Similar lights were reported in Hamersville and beyond. But what were they? Ghosts? Visitors from another world? Some strange natural occurrence yet to be understood? And so the mystery remains. A story whispered through the ages. A tale of lights in the night that left no footprints, cast no shadows, and disappeared into the unknown. What do you think? Were these spirits of the past, or something not of this earth? Let us know in the comments, and if you ever find yourself traveling a lonely road at night, keep your eyes on the horizon.
That was great.
It reminded me, he knocked on the door. It reminded me so much of Jose talking to his neighbor. And she goes, "Oh, you see those lights up there?" He's like, "Oh, yeah, you saw the UFOs."
That's very similar to my story, actually. Yeah.
And so this, I'm not sure what that was. Any thoughts about what you guys think they were reporting?
Literally could be anything. I think it was genuine. I'm just not really sure what to make of it. It was a very cool story, though. Very cool story.
It was, what was interesting about this newspaper, they were consulting a lot of churches about that. So apparently this was going on, like the religious people too, and they weren't sure what to make of this. And, to an extent, I could see this if it was just like some sort of glowy thing on the road, maybe typical swamp gas, especially in that area. But the guy with the barn and all these people had seen these supposed beings that would just disappear once you approach them. That's the part I wasn't sure about. But they did not talk about craft. It was more like beings in this one.
Yeah. It's interesting. It's interesting, when you got a group of people, that see something, and people are still like, no, must be mass hysteria or mass delusion. I'm like, look, man, you got 100 people that see the same thing.
Yeah.
What? Why would they form a conspiracy about that? It doesn't make sense to me. I can see one person, plenty of people out there that say, I've seen this or I've seen that, and all of us have had singular experiences, but you got a whole town. How do you justify saying they're all crazy?
That's true. And then the other thing I was thinking about was it was winter time when they were seeing that. So I wasn't sure if there were environmental conditions that were contributing to it or what. But during that particular year, that was like one of the earliest years I could find of sightings or something of that nature that people were talking about.
Yeah.
But go ahead.
No, that's interesting that you say that those events happen around winter, because the first event with the light at the well that I happened to come across with my wife, that happened around October. And then now we have this new light sighting that happened end of January, and my neighbor saw those lights at the beginning of January. So it's around the same season too.
And in January, it was bitter cold. Remember, it was like 0, -1, all of that, you know. And so I don't know if they're more, although that one I saw crash, that was during the summer. But as far as this one, with it cold, it just makes me, and then I have this theory that I don't know if it's correct or not, but like if I see things, there's moisture in the air. When it's real dry, I don't really see very much. But when you saw that, though, it was pretty dry. It was just bitter cold.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it was pretty clear skies, but yeah, no, it was cold. It was nighttime. By the time I got home, it was maybe around 32, 30 degrees. Yeah.
Yeah. So any thoughts on that one, Laura?
You know what? My brain is just going squeak, squeak, squeak. And I'm wondering the association or the possibility of these things taking place in the winter or in deep cold. I never would have threaded those two things together until I just heard it. But it does kind of make sense if you're talking about beings who perhaps are coming from so far away that, I mean, the further out in space you go, the colder it gets, the further from the sun. So maybe that is a very valid and real
could be
fact. Yeah, I think that's, yeah, I've got to think on that one some more.
Well, we also assume, rightfully so, I guess, but we also assume that every potential being in our grand universe has got the same tolerances to heat and cold that we do.
Exactly.
It's evolution on Earth may not be evolution somewhere else, and then people might not even be humanoid. For all we know, it could be a primordial intelligent ooze. I don't know. We are conditioned to think that anything that might be not from this Earth or solar system has got to be like us in some way, humanoid, or like I said, similar tolerances to temperatures and environments. And, we be honest, we don't know.
My fear is that they look like cockroaches.
They look like what?
Cockroaches.
Oh. There's Pepper.
But they could. I mean, what if they do look like that, or like spiders, or it could be anything, or something even beyond our own imagination. What they are.
Yeah, you don't know. It's funny to speculate, though.
Yes, it is.
It is. All right, you guys want another one?
Sure.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So
you did a
this
great job.
I only have 2 of these and then a slideshow. So this one was from 1897. Now, at this time, there were a rash of tons and tons of newspaper articles about this. So, put this one in.
1897. Strange lights danced across the skies of Texas, Illinois, and Wisconsin. Thousands of people, farmers, mayors, even city marshals, reported seeing giant airships floating over their towns. But here's the catch. Airplanes didn't exist yet. So what exactly did they see? Was it secret technology, mass hysteria, or something not of this earth? Imagine it's the late 1800s, no internet, no television, and the Wright brothers wouldn't take their first flight for another 6 years. Yet, across America, hundreds of reports flooded newspapers about aerial machines that shouldn't have existed. One of the first major sightings occurred on April 9, 1897, when a flying object was seen over Chicago. Thousands of people gathered in the streets as a craft with red lights floated over the city before vanishing into the night. But the sightings didn't stop there. In Farmersville, Texas, witnesses described a dim light moving slowly across the sky before suddenly glowing brighter, startling onlookers. In Ladonia, Texas, a banker claimed he saw an object nearly 300 feet long, hovering like a ship with sails before gliding away. And then things got really bizarre. City Marshal Brown of an unidentified Texas town reported that a giant airship flew just 200 feet over him. He even claimed he saw two men inside, and something that looked like a Newfoundland dog. I was close enough to hear them talking, but could not understand a word of their language, he said. Meanwhile, in another part of Texas, an undertaker saw a craft with wings that flapped like a giant bird, complete with a headlight in front as it zipped over the Gulf of Mexico. Walter L. Norwood, the undertaker in Galveston, claimed the moon was shining brightly, and we could see almost as plainly as in daylight. There was not a cloud in the sky. When we were out on the beach not far from our destination, I happened to look eastward down the beach. It was pointed at both ends, and the headlight was directly in front. It looked like a great big bird, with its wings flapping regularly, and it traveled swiftly. Not everyone believed these wild stories. Professor G.W. Hoff of Northwestern University insisted that people were simply seeing a bright star, Orion. He argued that atmospheric effects made it appear to move. And just when you think this story couldn't get stranger, it does. Reports even surfaced from Michigan. On April 14, 1897, in Pavilion, residents claimed to have witnessed an airship explosion. The following morning, debris such as a large metal coil and propeller-like pieces were discovered on nearby farms. Additionally, small metal fragments were found covering a barn roof. This incident is detailed in an article from the Muscatine News Tribune. Opining in 1897, the so-called mystery man of the Austin Statesman summed up his thoughts: where there's so much smoke, there must be some fire. So many reports from so many different points cannot be fabrications. People may say what they will, but there's something in it. These sightings form part of the 1897 Great Airship Mystery, one of the earliest recorded UFO waves in the U.S. Unlike modern UFO reports, many witnesses describe the objects as airships, hinting at an early aviation mystery or a mass hysteria event. The descriptions of mechanical movement, humanoid figures, and structured craft make it one of the strangest pre-Roswell UFO incidents. What do you think? Were these people witnessing secret government tests decades ahead of their time? A case of yellow journalism and mass hysteria? Or did something not of this earth visit the skies of America in 1897?
I like the thought that something not of this earth visited the skies.
I keep thinking about the Philadelphia experiment.
Yeah, that's. Can you explain what that is for people who might not know, El?
The Philadelphia experiment it's a story. The government says it's a hoax. That in somewhere, I think 1943, ship USS Eldridge was some kind of electromagnetic field had made it invisible and then transported it to a different time, and people saw it. And then it came back. There's a couple of different stories. A couple of movies have been made out of it that have taken some liberty with the original story. But basically, yeah, it's just about what then was a modern vessel showed up somewhere that it shouldn't be. It's pretty cool. There's a couple of different. You can Google it. I think they came out with the movie in 1984 and then somewhere in the early 2000s. But the story goes back to the 1940s. Mm-hmm. It's pretty cool. Pretty cool little bit of, whatever it is.
Well, the one that, what was interesting about this is that during that time frame, there were tons and tons and tons of newspaper articles everywhere. Yeah. So I have some thoughts that I'll put in a PowerPoint. But the one I thought was really interesting was the one in Chicago, because it was a little bit different from the other ones that they were talking, because they were talking about this red light that was like, when these people are coming out in the streets, and the newspaper articles of the time said thousands of people went out and saw them. And a part of me thinks that there's some, and I'll bring this up in a PowerPoint, I'll show you guys, but a part of me thinks, and that's what I think about some of this stuff now, some of it is genuine, and then other people just jump on the bandwagon, to tell a story. Because like the drone thing that happened in New Jersey. All right, my initial thought when I saw that was, the drones in New Jersey, and then they started spreading everywhere, was in Arizona in the summer that year. The Air Force Base down by Tucson were complaining about these huge drones that were coming into military airspace. And they got one down and there was a bomb in it. And so when I saw that was my very first thought was, okay, what's going on here? I did not go to UFOs. That's not where my mind went at all. And then, as I watched more of them, I thought, well, maybe there is something here, so to an extent, I think maybe it made people more aware, look up, see what's going on, whatever. But I think some of it was just, I watched some of these YouTube channels and they're all chasing after the drones and trying to make this big thing out of it, and it was just clickbait and make some money. And then you whip on top of that the government saying, oh, that's nothing. And so then all these conspiracy theories start boiling up from that. And so my thought about what was going on in the 1890s, it's kind of like when they were inventing the first submarines. And I saw some documentary about it that was just fascinating how, they would pay volunteers or even get prisoners, if I remember right, to test these submarines, and then they'd blow up, and they were just horrible, horrible deaths that people had as they were trying to invent these. And then other people, not knowing that they were being invented, would then come up with stories. So yes, it was some kind of an invention that was going on. But when people don't know things, then it turns into conspiracy theories thrown on top of that. And that's kind of what I think went out. Like Jose's lights, those were not, that seemed genuine to me. Just like as I was reading these news articles, the thing that they saw in Chicago seemed pretty genuine. But then all these other people start spinning off into other stories. Anyone have a thought on that?
Well, going from coming up with conspiracy theories?
Yeah, based on what other people saw, and then embellishing and trying to claim it as their own.
I think that happens a lot. I think that's one of the reasons why there's not as much credibility to UFO sightings as there should be, because like anything else, there's a lot of people out there that are just trying to get their 15 minutes or for whatever reasons they have. If you have too much disingenuity, I think that's how you pronounce that, in the genuine, it kind of muddles the pot.
Well, it does. I'll show you guys what was being invented around that time. And just some of my own thoughts that you may not agree with, and it's okay not to agree with them. Because some of it may rub people the wrong way. But so this is an actual picture, not like my AI generated movie stuff. This showed up in 1896 in a newspaper called the San Francisco Call. And that newspaper, actually, Mark Twain worked for that newspaper for a while. So that was earlier, a little bit earlier than that. So it's kind of like that same drone period of time where you start out, sort of spanning 2 years there. So that's how they depicted it. Now, this is what was being invented in 1852 by this guy, a German guy named Gifford. And they called it the Gifford Airship. And it's got the points on either end. And like one of these news accounts, they were talking about, it had points on either end. And talking about wings or whatever. And my theory, which could be very wrong, but it's like this kind of stuff, when we find out cool things to invent, even like playing with AI, a lot of people do it. So there could have been a whole bunch of these things floating around at that time. And so maybe people were actually seeing something, because like the one he's talking about, I saw these two guys in there, they're talking and I didn't understand them, and there was a dog. I think, what if they were Germans? He wouldn't be able to understand German, and there may have been a dog in there. And so how they had this, like on the bottom, they had like sort of like the hot air balloons of today. And so there was like a little basket underneath that people could ride around on. And so that might be why, people actually were probably seeing stuff that people were inventing at that time. Because, a big race to build something like that. So this came around by 1895. So this is like 2 years before this huge thing. That's the guy that invented it, and it looks like a big blimp. So for years, and then our military started using these, I think, if I remember right, around 1901, somewhere around there. So what I think may have been going on is people were seeing a combination of the other thing, maybe this, all kinds of, mom and pop kind of shops creating what they could. And so there could have been some legitimacy to that, but I don't think that what they saw was extraterrestrial. That's my opinion. Also around that time, you had books coming out, the greatest of, around the world in 80 days that we all read when we were kids, and that was published in 1873. So at that point, there was sort of a consciousness or interest in air travel. And so, of course, there's going to be stories. And what interests me, this was like one of the original covers when it was done. And it looks so much like one of those earlier things that from 1959, sort of like the balloon and then the basket underneath. It just looks a lot like what they were seeing. So personally, I think maybe people were just experimenting at the time. Then we come to what I think actually is why there were so many thousands of articles, was because it was clickbait.
Clickbait.
I really do. They were trying to sell newspapers. Yellow journalism was a huge thing. And I thought, well, what was going on in the economy and the world? And it's sort of like history repeating itself.
Well, yeah.
So 1893 was a very, very bad depression. And that is the one before the Great Depression, but it was pretty bad. And there was a lot of anger towards the wealthy that were basically screwing the other people. There were runs on the bank. There were all of these kinds of things, stock market crashing. And then William McKinley is put in as president, and we all know what he did. He started tariffs, and then it created the Great Depression. And so I think what was going on, if you look at society back then, I mean, it's hard to know because we don't live there, but there was probably a lot of fear over the economy. And the Civil War was probably still in a lot of people's memory because it wasn't, 20, 30 years, a lot of them may have lived through that. And so I think as human beings, we have a tendency to look for saviors in a way because things seem really bad.
Well, that makes sense. Sure does.
And so this is where I'm tying it in to what is going on with us, like 100 years later, give or take. So then the same kind of situation, the economy is not good. And then so pretty soon, some people see drones, but all of a sudden it just mushrooms into this thing that is carried on all the news stations. They're having to have government, press conferences about it. There's committee hearings. It's, YouTube had a proliferation of all this stuff about these drones and,
Sure.
different news stations. So I think that there is a similarity in energy about what was going on. And I hear a lot of people talking about, oh, there's going to be, like these mass sightings coming up and whatever. There's a part of me that thinks that as humans, we're always looking for saviors. And, like the Karamapa said, the Buddhist stuff, I kind of agree with a lot of it. And basically the Buddha says, we're not here to tell you what to do. You're your own savior. You got to gift yourself with a good fortune and a good life. And yes, I understand everybody has bad stuff happen, but ultimately whether it's some kind of savior coming from the skies, or like people are talking about just going off. I hear a lot of this, that there's like going to be some like huge flash of light, and then people are going to go off into another dimension, and basically the earth is rendered into, with all the wickety people stuck in this horrible earth, and then all the good people get to, go off to this better earth. It's kind of like the same thing as the rapture to me, but it's in new agey terms. And it makes me think of the infamous cargo cults. And that was after World War II, when the Japanese and Americans were dropping food parcels down. And, the islanders that, where was Polynesia? I don't remember what islands. But anyway, they had never seen planes before. And so they would see this going over, and then food drops down, and pretty soon they started worshiping the planes and the military people, thinking that they were gods of some type that were there once again to save them. So I think that with a lot of this stuff, my own opinion is that we need to be very discerning about it, because I think, and especially, and what's so wonderful, like when you caught that, Jose, on video, where it's actually shown. And it's because I think there's a lot of, this came up in our discussion Wednesday night too, about like paranormal shows, where people are just looking to entertain and to make money off of it, or get attention, or for whatever reason. And so you see a lot of these wild stories, and now with AI, you could make a lot of things very believable. And the thing is, it may not be true. It's just fake news. So I think in the 1890s, they had a rash of fake news going on, just like, we hear about that now. And, I'm not really sure. And that's partly why I created this show, is that people can talk about stuff and help us figure out what is real and what's not, because we're all locked in these social media bubbles. And, the sense of, for me, a sense of community allows us to talk about things and discern and find out what's real and what's not. Because if all you're doing is getting it off your phone and not interacting with other people, it's very easy to be prone to deception.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing about that is that you've got, let's take for example, like you were talking about earlier with the drones, right? You've got video.
Mm-hmm.
But do you have video? AI right now is at the stage of growth where there are tells. There's still tells that where you can see if something is not quite right. They haven't managed to correctly do lip movements. The number of fingers and toes is off the charts. Sometimes it's 8 or 9 of them on each hand. So, but as AI gets more sophisticated, it's I figure within the next several years, it's going to become nearly impossible to tell the difference between, what is real and what is not. And I think that's going to cause issues, not just with, people who have seen unidentified flying objects or UAPs, but even people who have, experienced other things like the supernatural world.
Mm-hmm.
It's so easy to fool the people.
Yes.
And it's just going to get worse from there. What that worries me, because, we need to know what's accurate and what's not accurate, especially, something of things like this is pretty large magnitude, a definitive proof that we're not alone in the universe would have a wide variety of effects on different people and different civilizations, to the point where, it might come up like one of those cargo cults.
Yeah.
The whole saying is, if you go back far enough in time, our reality is going to seem like magic. You imagine going back to the 1600s with an iPad?
Yeah, exactly.
Mind blowing.
Right?
Jose's got some thoughts there. I could see what are your thoughts, Jose. I could tell you had some about
Well, yeah, because I have
this.
a couple things. When you first showed that picture of that oval disc shape of the invention, that reminded me of an exact occasion that happened. I believe it was in the 1800s as well, in Italy, where there was a massive, and they recorded a massive, invasion of just these objects in the sky, and it looks similar to that. Now, if that was created in Germany, and then you have a bunch of people flying around, then I can see how that could have been that situation.
Yep.
Now, to touch on what Al was saying, and what you were saying is, we gotta be careful with what is real and what is fake. Now, I don't know if you guys know, but Elon Musk's brother owns a drone company. Now, I don't know how big it is, but we're starting to see all these drones flying up there, and how the government's not really doing much about it. So, what I'm thinking, in my opinion, is, are they being allowed to just, fly up there and just do their own thing? Now, the question is, what's the reason? I don't know if you guys have ever heard of Project Bluebeam.
Yep.
Well, never heard of that one.
Yep.
Okay, so Project Bluebeam is what they're, in short, is they're gonna try to use AI. They're gonna try to use, what is that other? Not AI, but the one that they use for
holographs.
Exactly,
the one I saw.
Holograms, augmented reality. Yeah.
Exactly. That they're gonna start using that to create, an incident where it's going to unite us all. And I know we touched upon this, maybe I think second episode that we had, where one big thing is going to unite the whole world, like in the Independence Day and all that. Now, if Project Bluebeam could happen, where they can throw holographic images in the sky, could it be not that these drones, are they not going to be able to do the same thing? Have some, like 1,000 of drones easily project something to just create it, a hologram, and everybody's going to be able to see it. Now, we can see that in Vegas. They're doing that with that dome, where it just looked realistic. So now, imagine what they can do with the drone up there.
Yeah.
So that's
we've all seen the drone shows that light up the sky hundreds of meters wide. That are, it's drone technology. They're all synced and they put on fantastic shows. You could, if you did something like that, and you had a drone that was capable of projecting a video or a hologram, and you put 1,000 of those things together, you can literally show movies up in the sky. Without a screen, you can do whatever you want, and I don't think we're that far away from that technology.
We have a listener who commented in the chat, and it sounds like he has had very real things, just like you, Jose. He says you don't have to go that far back; they're very real. In 2016, at 2:30 a.m. The TR3B, I'm not sure what that is, showing a huge bright white spotlight coming down off my roof, blinding my living room window with light. I looked up out the window. It was flying over the trees in my yard, less than 50 feet off the top of my trees.
Wow.
I could tell you for a fact that it made no sound, no sign of propulsion, but it was so low I could make out the fine edge of the craft. I believe that. I saw something similar in Wisconsin.
Yeah.
Okay, so the one he saw was the Black Triangle UFO.
Right.
Oh, the Phoenix one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of what he saw. The Black Triangle one.
Oh, okay.
Scott, if you're listening, if you could let us know where that was, like in the United States or other countries.
Yeah.
What state maybe. So many people in Arizona saw the Black Triangle UFO. That was, he says it's not a true triangle, though. Part of the points are kind of off. Oh, he's in Illinois. Okay, there's a lot of stuff in Illinois for some reason that seems to go on.
It's cold.
And Laura, do you remember what year it was at Arizona that everybody was seeing the Black Triangle things?
In Phoenix over South Mountain. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah. Remember the black
I
triangle?
want to say 97, and I say it like I absolutely know it, but I have no clue.
Okay, and so, and he, well, I'll just look it up real quick. But he's in Illinois, and this would be several years later. So whatever these are, the black triangle things, and that's what I heard too. There's like no sound to them. You don't hear anything. And so when people have genuine like sightings like that, and like the big ones over Arizona, I don't think that those are made up at all. When even the governor admits after the fact, oh yeah, it was real, So.
Well, again, that goes back to these mass sightings. It's easy to vilify the individual. Oh yeah, well, you say you saw a flying saucer, but you also say that your Uncle Pete thought he was Napoleon, whatever. But when you've got a group of people, especially a large group of people or a large mixed group of people, we really shouldn't dismiss that. It shouldn't be dismissed as some sort of a mass hysteria or a collective not dementia. I can't think of the word. But
Laura, you're right. 1997.
And the words just.
It was.
Yeah, right on the money.
I was clueless, man. It just came out of my mouth.
Okay, so Scott says he called the police and the airport tower, nothing on radar. He believed me. The police hung up on me. Typical. But this Project Bluebeam, gosh, I read about this back in the 80s, I think. It was a long time ago. And at that time, I was thinking, oh, man, this would make a great story. I'm going to use this, make a huge hologram Jesus. And everybody, that's where my mind went. And apparently somebody did write a science fiction story about that very exact same idea of doing that. But yeah, I think things like Scott, he says he registered it on MUFON and was interviewed by them. I think people do, legitimately see things. It's just some, I think, are just embellishing and trying, for whatever reason, attention or controlling other people or whatever.
Yeah. Unfortunately, that's prevalent in just about every aspect of our lives.
What I think, if it wasn't for earlier evidence of these flying objects being out there, it would be kind of hard to believe, especially with what a mass hysteria, people just seeing things, saying that they saw something, but then we see, that they're depicted in pyramids. They're depicted in the Egyptian, Mayan, Aztec,
cave paintings,
face painting. Exactly. Even the Bible. For those that believe, and read the Bible, we have Ezekiel's wheel. We see that or one of the prophets gets taken, in the whirlwind into the chariot of fire with horses. So we have evidence of it going back, way back. So it's like, it's just finding the key details on what is real, what is not, and who's it coming from too.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Are they trying to create hysteria, like Al said, or is it truthfulness?
What's the motivation? What's your agenda? If you have an agenda, if you have no agenda, or if you're in a community, there's no mass agenda. There isn't like a town hall meeting on the 1st. So, okay, next week, let's all get out into the parking lot of Town Square, and everyone says they see a UFO. Here's how you try. That doesn't happen. It just doesn't happen.
This is why, though, I think government accountability is so important.
Yeah.
Because even with the drones, the way they were blowing that off, of course, all these conspiracy theories came off on it. But even the big sighting that was going on in Arizona, maybe that was military. But if you're trying to hide it from the rest of the world as a military secret, it's not working very well. If all these people are seeing it, it's all over the news.
Yeah.
So just come out and say what it is.
You're not hiding it real well if all you got to do is look up.
Exactly. And I mean, it wasn't just regular people. I mean, you had officers calling it in, rescue, they were calling it in. So it's just everybody was, if it was like you say, military, everybody else was out of the picture.
Yeah.
Yeah. Scott, who's been commenting, says he's got past life memories. He's seen white orbs and seen ghosts and all that. And that's the kind of thing that came up Wednesday too, is that there seems to be a tie of people, for some reason, this UFO stuff, ghosts, memories of other times, whatever. It seems like a certain group of people experience all of those. So they're not exactly split. Sometimes they are, but for the most part, it all seems to blend together. So we were talking Wednesday night. Denise has a theory that some people are just almost like natural portals, that all of this happens around them, and other people don't see a thing or experience any of that.
Well, I think it also a lot has to do with the chemical makeup, the physiological makeup of your senses. Some people are a little more sensitive to different things. They may see things that others don't. For me, and this has always been very weird, and I have no way to explain it. And I don't necessarily know if it's something that is supernatural or it's just the way my brain is wired. But I see electrical fields around everything. Everything. It doesn't matter what it is. And it's very slight. It's just a little border. Like if it were a piece of 8.5 by 11 inch, it maybe would be like 1 or 2 pixels, maybe 3. But I see electrical fields around almost everything I look at, especially people, and they're different colors. I have no idea what that means. I have no idea what the colors signify. I have no idea how it happens. But I've been able to do this since as early as I can remember. I'm 3, 4, 5 years old. It's always been there.
People call those auras, like you could see aura colors.
Yeah, that's what they're called. But I can't explain it. I have no idea why. And people have tried to counsel me on, red means this and blue means that. And I'm like, I don't know. How do you know that?
It needs to be like your own observation, like recorded over time, and then kind of see. Like,
but I haven't
this isn't as exotic as that, but I would go through these like horrific bouts of depression, horrible depression. And so I just thought, you know what, I'm going to just kind of watch what's going on with me during these times, like what brings it on.
Yeah.
And it turns out for me, it's allergies. I started different foods that I eat. I'm having an allergic reaction, and it triggers into this just horrific depression. And so now it took like 2 years of writing that down and figuring it out. But once I figured it out, I know what not to eat or drink. And I have not had any depression since.
There's a very good book out there called The Body Keeps the Score. And it basically outlines different things in your life that you are exposed to, whether it be food, like Deborah said, or maybe an experience, maybe a memory, maybe, some kind of flora or fauna or whatever. But also delves into trauma, generational trauma, and how your body physically reacts, to certain things. And there's a chapter in there that does delve a little bit into the association between food and mental health. So that's what reminded me of that. But it's a really good book. But yeah, we don't, there's so many things that we can't explain. And you know what? Sometimes I think it's okay just to say, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know why some people have just phenomenal amounts of empathy. My wife's an empath. And I can tell you from being married to her for well over 3 decades that she's not making it up. Her physiology is affected by other people. and the pain they're feeling. She feels that, especially with animals too. So we're a unique species because we are sentient and we are self-aware, that we can look at ourselves in the mirror and say, okay, wow, I ate this and then this made me feel this way, or and I think on top of that, and this has a lot to do with people who see things up in the sky. A lot of it, I think, is genuine, but I think a lot of it also revolves around mental health. And we have such a stigma in this country that, if you have a broken leg, you go to the doctor and you get a cast put on it, right? Look, I was diagnosed clinically depressed back in the mid 90s when I was told I had early onset Parkinson's. It just destroyed my life. I got over it and I got around it. But I had to go on medication for that. And I stayed on medication for a while. And then, when I lost my parents and my sisters, I went on, what's it called? Prozac? That Prozac?
Yes.
Yeah. And I still take it. I've been taking it for years. And it just, calms me down and evens me out. A lot of people, I think, they're just really reluctant to talk about their mental health. And then you've got things like, UFOs or the supernatural. And, they tie that in with, oh, well, yeah, he's or she's, they've been diagnosed with anxiety, which I have. They've been diagnosed with depression, which I have. They've been diagnosed with this, that, and the other thing. And now they're saying, they saw a UFO. Well, they're on these drugs. And
exactly.
Don't even insult me that way. I'm in my 60s. I've been around the block a time or two. Don't insult my intelligence by telling me just because you have a mental health condition that you all just are making everything up and your entire life is full of crap. And that's one of the things that irritates me. And so I'm going to get off my soapbox before I start saying something on a family show I should.
I enjoyed your soapbox because I have one of my own, which is very similar, so I don't like the stigma attached to mental health, and especially the people that I know who have mental health issues are very intuitive. They're very in tune in their own way, and that's not crazy. That's self-knowledge, that's self-awareness, and that's all the stuff that I don't know really where to go with that, so I'll stop.
Well, but I feel like, like Al said, a lot of people do kind of blame this on mental health, or maybe because they're on drugs or something. But like Dev said, and that's something I never put together, but whoever has, have seen UFO, has seen a ghost, they also have a link to like past lives and all that. And I don't have any experiences with past lives, but I know I've had experiences with ghosts or the paranormal, and I know I've had experiences with the UFOs. So it's interesting that you said that, because now, just out of nowhere, I've started diving more into like past lives and dreams and all that. But I'm like, I want to know more. I want to get more into it. But at the same time, it's like, we got to be careful what we dive into. And then, because that also kind of picks up on what we're reading, goes up into our knowledge, and then that messes with our dreams and stuff.
Well, you had a future life, like going through and seeing your son get married and all of that. So it's kind of like the same realm, kind of, to me.
That's very
same
cool.
thing.
I enjoyed that story. Jose, I really enjoyed that story.
No, yeah, it's just, and again, it's not, I don't think it is mental health. I think it's also, if you're open to seeing this stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
When I was younger, I was able to see this stuff, and then I came to a point in my life where it's like I didn't want nothing to do with that life. I wanted out, and for a long period of time, I didn't experience anything. And then I started my podcast, and I started again. Stuff started happening. It's because I'm inviting this stuff to come back into my world, and I'm believing in it. Just like UFOs, you got to be open to it. If you don't believe in it, you're not going to see it. But if you're open, you're open-minded, and hey, if you believe there's something out there, you're gonna see something. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Your mind
It's
has,
just-
you know, we have the capacity to block things,
Yeah.
whether we want to or not. Sometimes it's something major. You know, if you have a loved one that's got a terminal illness, you might not want to. You know, I can't accept that, so I'm just going to make believe it doesn't exist, or I'm just going to block it. Well, my mind is going to block it for me to try to protect my body somehow. But yeah, I totally agree with that.
I am in the Skinwalker Ranch VIP group, that you could be a part of their group. And their videos and things that go on in the forum over there are much different from the show. Like, skeptics will watch the show and say, oh, they're just... But watching some of the things that actually go on the ranch and the pictures that they share that are not scripted by Hollywood, these are very genuine people. And, they all walked in very skeptical, with scientific backgrounds.
Sure.
Things like that. And then this stuff starts happening. And then it bleeds into this same thing with ghosts and stuff where they call them hitchhikers. So there's like all this like UFO activity going on at the ranch and other things that they're documenting of these energy shifts that go on.
Sure.
And then they go home to their state outside of Utah, and then all this weirdness starts happening at their place. And I hear music from somewhere. I'm hearing voices now.
That was my cell phone. My ringtone is the theme song from Maud, the TV show.
I thought I was hearing voices.
No, that was Maud.
But what's so interesting about that with them is that, these people that are, and it's all men too, except for one woman who's like, some kind of anthropologist or something that studies the native stuff. And men tend to be way more like skeptical or whatever when they walk into things. And it's very interesting to just watch how their lives have kind of changed as a result of these things going on. So, maybe they happen, and whether it was true or not, in the 1890s, at least it got people thinking outside the box. Sure. And thinking, there's more to life than just, go to work, wash the dishes, eat, go to bed, go to work, there's much more to life than that. And, so the good part about all of it, whether it's real or not, it opens you up to creative thinking and questioning what we've been taught.
True. And if you have the opportunity, watch Cowboys and Aliens.
Yeah, I'll have to watch that. I've never seen it.
I'm writing that down. Cowboys and Aliens.
Very cool movie. Very cool movie. Very well done, too. Good special effects. Good storyline.
Thank you.
Well, we're at our last minute, so I'll let everybody, both of you want a closing thought?
I love doing this. I don't know what's out there. I wish I could see more. I've always been open to it. Like Jose says, I absolutely agree. You have to be open to it and welcome it. And I do welcome I want to see more. It fascinates me. It just blows my mind. Thank you, Deborah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. And when it's told by real people, and it's not scripted, it makes it way more interesting.
We should do less of this.
What?
Less of this and more of that.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. So, Jose, your closing thoughts. And thank you for joining us tonight, by the way. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no. Just like Laura said, it's you got to be open to it. And sometimes when you're just too much into it, you're too into it. You gotta back up a little. Sometimes it happens when you least expect it. This lights that I recorded, it happened. I wasn't even thinking about it. It just happened out of nowhere. So it's just live and let it happen.
Exactly. And that's how it usually does. It's not expected at all. So I appreciate you big time. Thank you so much for joining us.
I love this space.
All right. Well, we love having you. Al, your closing thoughts.
Just look up, be open. Don't be so quick to dismiss something just because it doesn't fit your worldview or your ideology. Just try to take things for what they are, and when someone says, give them the benefit of the doubt.
Yep. Well, I'd like to thank everybody for joining us. People that are in the chat, Scott, for his very interesting stories that we'll replay, I think, on the chat. So Wednesday we'll be back at it's an hour different for us in Arizona. I think it's 6 o'clock in Arizona Wednesday, and we're going to go through some of more ghost pictures that Denise took over in New Orleans. She's got some crazy stories. We saw some pretty crazy things last time too. So anyway, I want to thank you all and have a wonderful weekend. See you Wednesday and Saturday.
Peace out.
Peace.
Thanks so much for joining us. We love hearing your stories, so tell your friends so they can join the party. For show notes and our forum of high strangeness, visit cosmicfold.com. Remember, Cosmic Fold airs live on Wednesday and Saturday nights, so be sure to subscribe and click the notification bell to know when we're on air. Thanks again and have a great evening.